Okay, let's hopefully I won't stuff this up too much. Right, so what we're going to do, I'm just going to take you right through some of the bits I've got. So we'll start with the fermentate. Now, so here we've got the hardener, which is just the blue one, and then we've got the actual, what's it called here? The foam, the rigid foam. So this is the hardener for it, and this is the yellow is the foam bit. So there's the stuff there. It's from Foamate. There's suppliers all around the world, I think. Pretty good quality brand from all accounts. They supply this as a sample, so you'll get 2 of these little yellows and 1 blue, and this has lasted me forever really. You don't use a lot on this side, this size of mould. Now, like I said, we go mix it at a ratio of 2 to 1, so two of the urethane foam and then 2 of the hardener. Well, this is part B and part A. They call it part A and part B. So part B is basically the hardener, I think. Part A is the foam. There we have it. One thing you got to be really careful with is because we're mixing such small amounts, you need to be quite accurate with your measuring, and I'll do it by weight. You got to mix this by weight, 2 to 1. So you need some scales. I think my scales here go to it's in grams and it goes to 2 decimal points. Yeah, and that's worked fine for me. But there have been occasions when I've gone slightly over on the hardener or slightly over on the foam bit, the yellow part A, shall we call it, and it does change the consistency of the final result. I think basically, if you think about it, if you're doing like, I don't know, a kg of the stuff, then if you go over 0.1 or 0.2, it's nothing. The ratio is nothing. But because we're mixing at such small quantities, that small difference actually means a lot, makes a lot. So yeah, you got that bit, and also make sure you mix it at 2 to 1. Read the instructions. Yeah, I've been casting this for ages, and then I did a spell when I was doing the composite stuff for the ducting on the EDF, and I was using the West System resin and fiberglass, and their mix ratio is, if I recall, 5 to 1. And then I went back to casting foam, and I just got in my head that the ratio was 5 to 1. So, I spent a day, I was on the weekend, I think, and I did 3 casts, and I just could not get it to come out. And I thought, oh, this is because my foam was really old, because this stuff does have a shelf life. They don't actually say what the shelf life is, but it does have a shelf life. So I automatically thought, okay, it's time for me to get some new Foamate. So I went to visit the manufacturer of the supplier, and I got it. And before I cast the next lot, I went through everything. I thought I'll just double check and make sure. And I read the instructions, and of course, right there in front of me, it's 2 to 1, not 5 to 1. So that accounted for that cock up. And then the other thing you need to be wary about, it actually says that you need to use this at room temperature and 23 degrees Celsius. Now I haven't really taken much notice of that, and during the summer, because the garage is quite warm, I suppose I was casting it at about 16 degrees Celsius average, and then I had a really cold spell, and I think it must be about 2-3 degrees Celsius, and I cast and I could not go to work. It was just an awful mess. It wouldn't set up. It just didn't do what I should have been doing. So what I've been doing since, after reading instructions again and saying, or maybe this, what they're saying in the instructions, i.e. Store and use at 23 degrees Celsius is actually important, i.e. it's in the instructions, so, that's a good start, a good hint. So basically, before I use it, if it is cold, all I've been doing is just popping in front of a heater, just a fan heater, and just to warm it through, so it's like I don't know, body temperature sort of, just not freezing cold. I haven't actually measured it, but I just normally do it by how it feels. The other thing you got to watch with this stuff, it says, and it does actually say, is mix. It says stir thoroughly before mixing with part A, and then stirs thoroughly before you mix in with part B. And there have been times where, again, not thinking, I shook it up, yeah. So all you're doing is shaking those bubbles and stuff into there, and it definitely works better if you actually stir it. So even if you've been using it half an hour ago, and you mix up another bunch, actually give it a stir. And as you can see, I've got 2 sticks on, that I use, and I keep them with elastic bands on the relevant part of the foam 8, so I've got an A and a B, and that way I don't use up loads of the sticks. So as long as I keep them separated and I don't mix part B with part A, etc., you don't have any problems. So that's our thing. I think I've covered most of the things to watch out for that. We've covered the scales. My mixing stick, this one's been used quite a lot now. I haven't, it says to use clean plastic, wood or glass, I think, to mix your stuff in. I've just taken the end of my mixing stick again so I can get scrape into the corners of my mixing cup, and after I've finished with that, I just wipe it off and make sure it's clean. I might put in some acetone and just clean it, and after a while it's I've actually sanded it down as well, so it's a bit of a feather, and I just find that helps when I'm working. It's not so thick, it's like a bit of a feather, and obviously over time it's got like a resiny feel to it now, and every now and then I just sand it with some wet and dry just to clean it up, but it's working well. So again, ideally you should be using a new stick every time. This is all I use for my mixing pot, just from the pound store or dollar store in the States. These seem to work quite well. I think the ones you've got to watch out for are the ones with like a waxy feel on the inside. I expect these must be sort of waxed somehow to stop it from seeping through. What doesn't work is the polystyrene cups. They just melt and just mix. There's obviously a chemical reaction with it, and it messes up your mix. So the big thing to look for in these is that you've got no sort of. Okay, what I'll do is first I'll chop it down. I always chop these down first, just makes them easy to work with. So literally just chop it down like that. Yeah, it makes it easier just to get and mix and stuff. So once you've cut it down, make sure there's no cardboard and whatnot that falling in there. And then normally just squeeze it to make a little spout. Simple as that, really. Yeah, what I was saying is when you're looking for a mixing vessel, mixing cup, they recommend you use wood, plastic, glass. They don't say anything about cardboard, but again, I've been sort of getting away with this. So these are really, really cheap. They cost nothing. So that's if it's working, then why change it, basically. So there's my cup, my mixing stick. I've got my scales and a calculator handy in case you're going to panic and you want to check something. And that's basically it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to mix up what I've found that works well with the, before we go on, as I said, preparation is everything. So again, have a think about, I know it sounds daft, but have a think about the part and how it's going to be placed. Because when you mix the stuff up, you go work fast, yeah? And how you're going to pour it. So you can, think about how you're going to pour it so you can orientate it better. So it's one less thing to think about after you've mixed it, yeah? So this for me, sitting down at the table works well, feels right. I've got my pegs in. I'll make sure there's no bits of plastic or dust on my mould pieces. The same with the cavity. Okay, so with this thing, I suppose with all composite work, I think preparation is everything with it. That's what I've found out in my limited experience. Preparation. Think about what you're going to be doing. Like you're going to measure it. Yeah, you're going to mix it. What you're going to clean your stick with after you've mixed it. Have a piece of kitchen towel ready. Trust me, my I'm actually working in the conservatory by the house at the moment, so the workshop is a lot dirtier than this. So keep it uncluttered. Anything you don't need next to you, push out the way. Yeah, you just want to keep things as simple and as uncluttered as possible. This is what I've found. So just go through in your head what you're going to do. You're going to mix up your foam. Mix it for 40 seconds now. I thought, in the instructions it says you need to mix it for 40 seconds. I've read somewhere. So I'll open it, stir it up. Yeah, I always, me personally, I always weigh out the resin part of the mix, and then I add the hardener. That's just the way I've been doing it. So open the cap, stir it, pour it. No stress about time at the moment. Yeah, don't have to worry about time. Take all the time in the world. Pour it to 15 grams. Yeah, and then the hardener again. Open the lid, stir it, pour it 7.5 grams. Make sure that's all happy. Still no panic with time. Okay, because it does a little bit start to react, but it doesn't actually really start to react until you start stirring it. Yeah, and then what I found is what you want to do is give it a really good stir with purpose. Yeah, don't just dilly dally. Stir, make sure you get into all the corners. Scrape off your stick every now and then, and get it going. So count to 40, or even put get a stopwatch going. And it's really, really important that you give it a good stir. Give it a thorough stir. With the small sort of quantity I've been using, I've been probably not stirring for the full 40 seconds, because I've found with the latest casts, the sooner you can get it stirred into like an even consistency, you'll see when it's even, and it doesn't start foaming straight away. It looks like sort of a milky, like a thick milk colour, but shiny, and it looks quite. But when you actually put it on the part, pour it into the mould, it goes like a clay. It's like a clay. It sort of spreads out and it's clear. And when you first pour it in there, it's going to run. Yeah. So what I found. This is the way I found. And sorry, I forgot your name. Please don't be offended. There's a guy who's doing something similar with gliders in the composite groups. And one thing that he said that I picked up on quite quickly was you can't sort of pour this foam for a wing section like this where it's really, really thin. You couldn't really sort of put the two pieces of the mould together and then pour on the top, because you're just asking so much for that foam to do in a real limited time. I think the pot life is 1.5 minutes, yeah, and you can handle it, they say, in 20 minutes, yeah. So if you just pour that in, yeah, you're asking the foam to do so much to get up to the top and fill all the voids. So what he suggested, and what I strongly recommend as well, something like this, is pour it out as quick as you can. It's small, so it's only really a one-man job, this. Pour it out as quick as you can, smoothly, but control. Think about where you're going to put the material. So I need thickness here, I need thickness down the leading edge, I need some thickness around here and around the saddle bit, and then the spurs, and then just around the trailing edge. It's just, you can picture in your head which parts of your final casting need a bit of thickness. So that's where I normally pour it, and then anything else goes on there. And then what I do is I start working it quickly to try and spread it over the whole, as much as possible over the whole part, so it's covered. So you're not asking the foam to do much apart from just expand in size. Another thing is, you're actually going to waste a hell of a lot. Yeah, so 15 grams is a lot, and you probably waste a third of that. I'd say a good third of that will get waste. It just gets used up. It'll come up the sides, or it'll be left inside the tub. It just won't get used. But rather have more material, so it builds up that pressure, than less material. Yeah. So you put the stuff in there, and if there isn't enough material there for it to really pack up and get that foam nice and dense, then it's not gonna, it's gonna be really weak, and you might not fill your whole wing, as it were. But again, if you do have it, I haven't really quite got that side of the balance right. I need to play a bit more there. The denser the foam is, the heavier your part's going to be. So on the wing, we want to keep that light and strong. but I've found at the moment 15 grams of the resin and 7.5 of the hardener, the Part B, seems to work well. Yeah, and the wing comes out about 10 grams, the skin, about 10 grams for the skin. So it's still not as light as I would probably like it, but it's a really good starting point. Okay, so yeah, have your wits about you, do your dry runs, have a think about where you're going to pour the stuff, and then and then commit, and then even go to the point of, you know, how you're going to reach for stuff, you know, how you're going to place it. It sounds probably over the top, yeah, but the more of the stuff you can get in your head, like a dry run, ahead of time, the better, really. And I'm only talking from experience. The first time I did this, it was such a mess. There was foam everywhere, all over my hands. I suppose, yeah, you should probably wear some latex gloves. I don't really need to because I'm a lot better at it now. But yeah, wear latex gloves, safety glasses, whatever. Whatever you're comfortable with. And when you first start, it's just like, you know, it's like, oh shit, the stuff's pouring everywhere. It's, you know, it's going everywhere. One thing I haven't got ready, for instance, is the clamps. I need to get the clamps ready. I haven't got those ready, so I'm finding 4 clamps works quite well. You know, we don't want to wang these clamps up too much. We just want to keep it. The foam actually builds up quite a lot of pressure in there, and it'll actually push the parts away. If I just rested, say, a couple of books and popped it, the chances are, you know, it actually builds up a lot of pressure in there. So all the clamps are doing is just holding it. You're not, because it's plastic, and it's only light plastic. You know, it's hollow inside with a little crisscross. And that crisscross really doesn't. It does add structure and strength to it, but not as much as you'd think. So you want to go clamping the hell out of it. Yeah, I normally clamp it just until I see the gap close a little bit, and maybe some foam pop out the gap. But yeah, you don't have to go crazy with the clamping. So with your clamps, these ones are quite easy because they're easy to adjust. I've got a bit of a mixture of clamps. With your G clamps, you just unwind them, have them ready. Not so, you know, if you have the stuff ready beforehand, it's going to make things a little bit easier later on. Yeah, just have them unwind a bit, ready to go. Like I say, I'm just going by how it's caught me out, and believe me, I've made some right stuff ups with this stuff. So I've got my clamps so I can reach them nicely over there off the table. I've got the other part of the mould, it's off camera, I think, off camera a bit, and I've got the other MDF plate off camera. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to mix up some resin. Okay, I'm going to stop.